The mafia boss got a wrong call at 3 a.m. He arrived and the single mom whispered, "Stay, please." The phone vibrating on the nightstand was an intrusion. In my world, silence was currency, and at 3 in the morning, it was the only thing I truly owned. I lived 20 floors above Briarfield, encased in glass and steel that muted the city to a distant, electrical hum. The sheets on my bed were 1,000 thread-count linen. The air was filtered, and the only other person in the penthouse was the security man stationed down the hall. I was alone, by design. The phone was not my personal device. It was a ghost, a sterile piece of black plastic reserved for contacts who did not officially exist. It buzzed again, a hard, insistent rattle against the Italian marble. Annoyance flickered. No one called this line unless the sky was falling. I picked it up, yes. Silence. Then a sound. Not a word, just a breath, sharp and wet, drawn in through teeth. "Who is this?" I stated. It was not a question. A voice finally came, so quiet I almost missed it. A woman. "He's here." "Oh God, please, he's in the hall. I don't know what to do. I locked it, but he's pounding." I sat up, the sheet pooling around my waist. My skin felt cold. The voice was wrong. It was thin, brittle, laced with a kind of terror that was raw, unmanaged. This wasn't one of my contacts. This wasn't business. This was a mistake. "You have the wrong number," I said, my voice flat. "No, please don't hang up," she whispered, a desperate rush of air. "He's going to break it down. I have my daughter, please, I need help. He said he'd kill me. He means it." Another sound came through the line, a heavy, dull thud, a fist against a hollow door. The woman let out a small, strangled sound, like a hand had clamped over her mouth. I was already out of bed, walking toward the closet, the phone pressed hard against my ear. My annoyance was gone, replaced by something else, a cold, sharp focus. It was the feeling I got before a deal went south, before the polite smiles dropped and the real work began. "Where are you?" I asked, pulling on a pair of dark trousers and a black cashmere sweater. "What? I don't know you, do I?" Her confusion cut through the panic for just a second. "No, but you called me. Where are you?" "Apartment 301, the Crestview, on Elmwood." Elmwood. The word hung in the air of my sterile, multi-million-dollar apartment. Elmwood wasn't a street. It was the city's sewer, the part of town decent people pretended didn't exist, the part of town where my father had started his empire, with blood and broken bottles. "I'm on my way," I said. Who are you?" I hung up. I slid my feet into soft leather driving shoes, grabbed my keys, and palmed the firearm I kept in the nightstand drawer. It was a heavy, comforting weight. I slid it into the waistband at the small of my back, the sweater hiding it completely. My phone buzzed again, a text from Nico, my head of security and the only man I trusted to breathe the same air as me. He ran logistics, information, and cleanup. I had hit his number on my way to the elevator. A 2-second call. The text was simple, location pinged, Ava Delaney, 32 years old, 1 child, Lily, 4. Ex-boyfriend is Marcus Raid, long sheet, domestic violence, assault, petty theft, restraining order filed last month, worthless piece of paper. The elevator doors opened to the private garage. The engine of my Bentley turned over with a low, predatory growl. I didn't ask myself why I was doing this. Curiosity was part of it. The wrong number landing on this specific, untraceable phone was an anomaly, and I hated anomalies. But it was more than that. It was the sound of her voice. I dealt in fear. I manufactured it. I leveraged it. I sold it. I knew its every texture. This woman's fear was different. It wasn't the negotiated fear of a man who owed me money. It was the absolute, final terror of prey. And something about it unsettled me down to the bone. The drive took 20 minutes. The glass and chrome of downtown gave way to pawn shops and boarded-up windows. The rain that had been a gentle mist on my penthouse windows was a grimy drizzle here, clinging to the cracked pavement. The Crestview apartments were a monument to failure, a 3-story box of crumbling brick and rust-stained balconies. There were no lights in the hallway. The air smelled of damp plaster, old grease, and misery. I took the stairs 2 at a time. The 3rd floor was silent. I found apartment 301. The door itself was cheap plywood, splintered near the lock. The deadbolt was engaged, but the wood around it was visibly fractured, bowing inward. He had been here. He might still be. I listened. Nothing. Just the faint sound of a television from another apartment. I knocked. Not a hard knock, just a solid, patient rap 3 times. A scuffling sound from inside, a long, agonizing silence. "Who is it?" The voice was the one from the phone, but muffled, pressed against the wood. "I'm the man you called. I don't know who you are. Go away. Please. He'll come back." "He's not out here," I said, my voice calm, projecting. "My name is Leon. I'm here to help. Open the door." Another pause. I heard the metallic click of the deadbolt sliding back. It sounded rusty. The door opened a crack, held by a cheap brass chain. I saw one eye, wide and dark and terrified. She was looking past me, into the hallway, searching for the monster she expected. Then her eyes focused on me, on the suit, the shoes, the stillness. I didn't look like a cop. I didn't look like anyone who belonged on Elmwood. "Who are you?" she whispered. "Let me in, Ava." Her name was a calculated risk. It hit her like a slap. Her eyes widened further, the fear warring with a new, sharp suspicion. "How do you know my name?" "You called me. I'm not going to hurt you, but I'm not leaving you here like this." I put my hand flat on the door. I didn't push. It was an offer, a statement. She stared at my hand for a long moment. It was clean, manicured, no calluses. The hand of a man who didn't pound on doors. She fumbled with the chain, her fingers trembling so badly it took her 2 tries. The door swung open. She was small, swallowed by a threadbare gray robe. Her dark hair was matted on one side, tangled, but it was her face that held me. There was a fresh, ugly bruise blooming high on her left cheekbone, turning a sick shade of purple and yellow. Her lower lip was split, dried blood crusted in the corner. She held the robe clutched tight at her throat, her knuckles white. She was trying to stand tall, but her whole body was coiled, ready to spring backward. My gaze moved past her. The apartment was tiny, barely a room. A kitchenette was shoved against one wall, a few dishes in the sink. The main space held a worn-out sofa, a small television, and on a thin cot in the corner, a little girl was asleep. She was curled on her side, a mass of dark hair, one small hand clutching a stuffed bear that was missing an eye. The sight of the child solidified the cold thing in my chest into a hard, sharp point. Ava saw where I was looking. She instinctively moved, trying to block my view of the cot. The movement was pure mother bear, protective, even against a potential rescuer. It was pathetic, and it was profound. "You need to leave," she said, her voice stronger now, but still shaking. She was embarrassed. The bruises, the poverty, the stranger in her home. It was all a massive, humiliating weight. "He's gone. I'm fine." "No, you're not," I said, moving past her. I didn't brush against her, but I was inside. I crossed the small room and checked the single window. The lock was broken. I looked back at the front door. The frame was split. "He got in earlier, didn't he?" I said. She nodded, her arms crossed over her chest, hugging herself. He has a key. I tried to change the locks, but the landlord, he doesn't care. He came in while we were sleeping. I screamed. He hit me. He took my phone and smashed it. He said if I called the cops, he'd come back for Lily." Her voice broke on her daughter's name. I grabbed my daughter's old phone, the one for games. It had no service, but I thought it might call 911. I had a number saved for a shelter. A woman gave it to me. I thought that's what I was dialing. I must have gotten it wrong. "You did," I said. I sat on the edge of the sofa, It sank under my weight. The springs groaned. The apartment was cold. She stood by the door, watching me, trapped between her fear of me and her fear of what was outside. "Are you a cop?" she asked. "No." "Who are you then? How did you find me? Why did you come?" "You called," I said simply, as if it were the only answer. "And I don't like men who hit women." Her eyes searched my face, looking for the catch. In her world, men didn't do things for no reason. They didn't show up at 3 a.m. in expensive clothes to sit on a broken sofa. In her world, a man like me was more dangerous than the man she knew. "I don't want any trouble, Mr. Leon? Leon, I don't want trouble. I don't want violence or guns or whatever this is." "He's trouble. He's violence. I'm sitting on your couch." A tense, heavy silence filled the room. It was broken by her. I can make tea." It was absurd, a gesture of normalcy in a moment that was anything but. It was her trying to reclaim some tiny piece of control. "All right," I said. I watched her move to the kitchenette. Her hands shook so badly that the kettle rattled against the stove. She fumbled with a box of tea bags. Dropping it, she cursed under her breath, a tiny, frustrated sound, and bent to pick them up. She was holding herself together with frayed string. She brought over 2 mismatched mugs, her gaze fixed on the steaming water as if to keep it from spilling through sheer force of will. She handed one to me. Our fingers brushed. She flinched. It was a small, microscopic movement, a recoil, fast as a snake's strike. Her eyes widened, terrified, as if she expected me to hit her for the contact. I didn't move. I just held her gaze. I took the mug from her. "Thank you," I said. My voice was quiet. She retreated to a rickety wooden chair, as far from me as she could get, and wrapped her hands around her own mug. The steam rose, bathing her bruised face in a soft light. "He'll be back," she whispered, staring into the mug. "He always comes back. The restraining order just made him angrier. He said if he can't have me, no one can." "He won't come back tonight," I said. "It was a promise." She looked at me. "You don't know him." "He doesn't know me." That shut her up. The weight of that simple sentence settled in the room. She understood. I was not a shelter contact. I was not a social worker. I was the other kind of man, the kind who could make a promise like that stick. And it terrified her almost as much as it relieved her. I pulled the new burner phone from my pocket. It was a simple, clean device. I placed it on the coffee table between us. "This is for you," I said. "It's clean, untraceable. My number is the only one in it. If he comes to the end of the block, you call it. If you hear a noise you don't like, you call it. If you need anything, you call it." She stared at the phone. She didn't reach for it. "I told you, I can't pay for this. I don't want involvement." "It's not a request," I said, my voice hardening just a fraction. "Take the phone. Ava, he smashed yours. You have a daughter. Don't be a fool." My words were harsh, but they cut through her hesitant fear. She was a mother first. She nodded, a short, jerky movement, and reached out, her fingers closing around the phone. She pulled it back into her lap, cradling it. "What do you want?" she finally asked. The question she'd been holding back. "For you to be safe tonight." "And then?" "We'll see about then." We sat in silence for a long time. The tea was bitter. I drank it anyway. The little girl on the cot sighed in her sleep and turned over. Ava's head snapped toward the sound. Her body tensed. Before she relaxed again, she was a raw, exposed nerve. After a while, she stood up. I need to check on her." She tiptoed over to the cot and knelt, brushing the hair back from her daughter's face. She adjusted the thin blanket, tucking it around the girl's shoulders. Her movements were slow, tender, full of a love that was fierce and aching. She stayed there for a long time, just watching her child breathe. I looked away. It felt like trespassing. This was a private, holy moment, and my presence felt like a sacrilege. When I looked back, Ava was still kneeling, but her head was bowed. Her shoulders were shaking. She was crying, but she was making no sound. The sobs were silent, violent tremors that racked her small frame. She was trying to break down without waking her daughter. I stood up. The chair squeaked. She went rigid. She scrubbed at her face, her back still to me. "I'm fine. I'm just tired." There was a blanket on the back of the sofa. It was old, pilled wool. I picked it up and walked over to her. I didn't say anything. I just held it out. She rose, turning, and saw me, saw the blanket, and she flinched again. Not a small recoil this time, a full body jerk, her hands coming up in a defensive posture, her eyes wide with a fresh spike of panic. She'd forgotten, for a second, who I was, that I was a man, a stranger standing over her in the dark. I stopped, my hand outstretched. I didn't drop the blanket, I just held it. "I'm not him," I said, my voice rougher than I intended. Her breath hitched. She stared at me, her chest heaving. Slowly, so slowly, her hands lowered. She didn't take the blanket. She just vibrated with exhaustion and fear. I stepped forward, gently, and draped the blanket around her shoulders. She was stiff as a board, her muscles locked, but she didn't pull away. I could feel the cold radiating off her skin. "Go to bed, Ava," I said. "I can't. I'm here. I'm not leaving. I'll be right here. He won't get through that door." She looked at the door, then at me. Where will you sleep?" "Here." I pointed to the small patch of bare floor between the sofa and the door. Her brow furrowed. On the floor?" "I'll be fine. Go to sleep. You need it." She hesitated, then nodded. She pulled the blanket I'd given her tighter and walked to her own bed, which was really just a mattress in the corner of the room. She slid under the covers, still wearing the robe. She didn't turn her back to me. She lay on her side, watching me, her dark, bruised eyes following my every move. I went to the door. I checked the fractured lock again. It wouldn't hold against a determined push. I dragged the rickety wooden chair she had been sitting in and wedged it hard under the doorknob. It was a flimsy defense, but it would make noise. Then I took the remaining cushion from the sofa, dropped it on the floor, and sat, my back against the wall, facing the door. I could see the whole room from here, the cot, the mattress, the window. I didn't take my gun out. I didn't need to. I was a light sleeper. I heard her breathing start to even out, but I knew she wasn't asleep. I could feel her watching me in the dark. I closed my eyes, but I wasn't sleeping either. I was listening. Listening to the sounds of the building, the sirens in the distance, the soft breaths of the child, and the terrified, irregular heartbeat of the woman I had come to protect. I hadn't slept on a floor in 25 years, not since I was a kid, hiding from my own father's rages. The thought came from nowhere, and I pushed it down. This was not that. This was a job, a very strange, self-appointed job. Hours passed. The gray light of a miserable dawn began to filter through the dirty window. The city was waking up. I heard the first trucks, the first distant shouts. Nothing had happened. The ex was a coward, at least for tonight. I flexed my stiff shoulders. It was time to go. I had my own life, my own business to run. I had done what I came to do. She was safe for the night. I'd leave Nico posted in a car downstairs. He could handle it from here. I rose quietly, my joints protesting. I moved to pull the chair away from the door. "Don't." The voice was a threat. I stopped. I turned. Ava was sitting up in her bed, clutching the blanket to her chest. Her hair was a wild mess. Her face pale and swollen in the morning light. The bruise was darker. She looked awful, and she looked terrified. "He knows you're gone," she whispered. Her voice was cracked from sleep or from crying. "He'll be watching. He'll know you left." I looked at her. The bravado from last night was gone, burned away by the long, dark hours, leaving only the raw, desperate plea. "Stay," she said, her voice breaking. "Please." That single broken word hung in the cold, gray air. Stay. I looked at her. She was a wreck, her face pale, the bruise on her cheek a dark, ugly stain in the dawn light. She wasn't just asking me to protect her. She was asking me to be a wall. I had business. I had a multi-million-dollar organization to run. I had men waiting for orders. Deals closing, rivals watching. I didn't stay. I acted, I finished, and I left. But I looked from her terrified, exhausted face to the small lump under a blanket on the cot. Lily. "I'll be back," I said. My voice was quiet, but it held the weight of a command. She flinched, the hope draining from her face. "No, you don't understand. He'll come back as soon as he sees your car is gone." "I'm not leaving you," I said, walking to the door. I pulled the chair away. "I'm going to get food. I'm going to make a call. There will be a man downstairs, in the lobby, until I return. He won't let anyone who doesn't live here pass the front door. Do you understand?" She stared, confused. "A man?" "My security, you'll be safe." I stepped into the hallway. I didn't look back. I made the call as the elevator descended. Nico answered on the first ring, his voice crisp, awake. "Boss? Crestview Apartments, Elmwood. I need one man, discreet. Suit in the lobby. No one bothers apartment 301, no one, and I need the name of a 24-hour grocery store in this part of town that doesn't sell poison." Nico didn't ask why. He just said, "Done. There's a market 3 blocks east. It's clean. And, boss, Raid's last known was a bar downtown. He's not in the area, but he's jittery. Opiates, probably." That explained the escalation, the lack of control. "Good, lobby, 5 minutes." I hung up. I drove the Bentley through the awakening city. The contrast between my car and the neighborhood was stark. I got more than a few stairs. I parked, walked into the fluorescent-lit market, and felt like I was on another planet. I didn't just grab essentials. I grabbed a large bag of flour, eggs, real butter, milk, thick-cut bacon, a bottle of pure maple syrup, and on impulse, a bag of chocolate chips. I added oranges, apples, and a box of bandages, antiseptic, and painkillers. When I returned an hour later, a man I didn't recognize, which meant he was one of Nico's best, was sitting in the lobby reading a newspaper. He didn't look up, but his eyes tracked me as I passed. Good. I knocked on Ava's door. This time, there was no hesitation. The chain slid back, and the door opened. She was still in the robe, her hair pulled back in a messy knot. She had washed her face. The split on her lip looked red and raw. "You came back," she whispered. It wasn't a statement. It was a marvel. "I said I would." I walked past her, placing the heavy paper bags on her small kitchen counter. She looked inside them, her hands fluttering at her sides. What is all this? I can't pay for this." "I didn't ask you to." A small, sleepy voice came from the cot. "Mommy?" Ava's entire body tensed. She hurried over, kneeling. "It's okay, baby. Go back to sleep." Lily sat up, rubbing her eyes. She was a tiny thing, 4 years old according to Nico's intel, with a tangle of her mother's dark hair. Her eyes found me. They went wide. She wasn't scared, just curious. "Who's that?" she whispered, pointing. That's a friend. Lily. His name is Leon." "Why is he in our house?" I walked over, kneeling on one knee so I was closer to her level. It was a tactical move. Make yourself smaller, less of a threat. I'd done it 100 times with men who thought they were tough. It worked just as well on a child. "I'm here to make pancakes," I said. Lily's head tilted. "Pancakes?" "I brought chocolate chips, but..." I leaned in a fraction. "I'm not very good at it. I was hoping you could tell me if I'm doing it wrong." A tiny smile touched her mouth. "With chocolate? With chocolate?" "Okay." She scrambled off the cot, her bare feet hitting the cold floor. Ava watched us, her hand over her mouth. She looked completely adrift, like she was witnessing an event she couldn't process. "Ava," I said, standing up, "where are the bowls?" For the next half hour, the tiny apartment filled with a smell it probably hadn't known in a long time. The smell of bacon frying, of melting butter. I let Lily stand on a chair and dump the pre-measured flour into the bowl. She got some on the counter, and some on my sweater. I didn't care. Ava just sat at the small, wobbly table, watching. Her guard was still up, but it was different. It was no longer the sharp-edged terror of a cornered animal. It was the deep, weary caution of someone who knew that good things were usually a trap. I served the food, a plate for Lily, piled high, a plate for Ava, a plate for me. We sat at the table. It barely fit 3. Lily ate like a starving wolf, her face soon smeared with syrup and chocolate, but Ava just stared at her plate. "Why are you doing this?" she asked, her voice low so Lily wouldn't hear. I had been dreading this question, because I didn't have an answer. Not a real one, I don't know. Your voice on the phone, the kid, none of it was right. I met her gaze. Her eyes were green, I realized, a deep forest green, clouded with exhaustion. "Because you needed someone," I said. It was the truth, simple, absolute, and it required no further explanation. She held my gaze, searching for the lie, the angle. She didn't find it. She looked down at her plate and, very slowly, took a bite. Lily, her mouth full, looked at her mom. "Mommy, you're not sad." Ava's head snapped up. "What, baby?" You're not doing your sad face. Is it 'cause of the pancakes? Is it 'cause Leon's here?" Ava's eyes flooded. She tried to blink it back, but a tear escaped, rolling down her bruised cheek. She wiped it away, angry. And then, a sound. It was a half sob, half gasp, but it ended in something else. A laugh. It was a small, rusty sound, like a hinge that hadn't been used in a long time. It was a terrible, beautiful sound. Lily giggled. Ava laughed again, covering her mouth, the tears coming faster now, but the laugh was real. I stopped eating. I just watched her. I had seen women cry. I had seen them scream, beg, rage. I had never seen anything like this breaking open, this release. It hit me in the center of my chest, a dull, unfamiliar ache. I was, in that moment, completely and utterly softened. After breakfast, Lily, now my firmest ally, took her stuffed bear to the cot for a pancake nap. Ava and I cleaned the few dishes, moving around each other in the tiny space. The silence was comfortable now. "I used to be a nurse," she said suddenly, her back to me as she washed the skillet. "Oh?" "At Briarfield General, in the pediatric wing." I heard the pride in her voice. I loved it. I was good at it. I was saving up to get Lily and me out of this place. "What happened?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. "Marcus," the name was poison in her mouth. "He lost his job. Again, he started needing money. When I wouldn't give it to him, he got angry. When I told him to leave, he got violent." She stopped, her hands sinking into the soapy water. "He started calling my work, telling my supervisors I was stealing medication, that I was an addict. He would show up in the hospital lobby, screaming. Security would drag him out. I was a problem, a liability. They suspended me. Then they let me go. Workplace disruption." It's hard to get a job in a hospital when your ex-boyfriend has told anyone who will listen that you're a junkie who steals from sick kids. He ruined me. She turned, leaning back against the sink. "He didn't just hit me. Leon, he took my whole life. This apartment, this is all I have left, and he won't even let me have this." I had no words for that. I just nodded. "I have to go," I said. Her face crumpled. The light I had seen during breakfast vanished. "Go? But you said—" "I have business. I have to check in." I held up my hand as her panic started to rise. "The man is still downstairs. He's not leaving. And you have the phone." I pointed to the burner, which was on the counter. "He comes within a block. You call me. I'll be back this afternoon. We need to talk about getting you out of here." "I have nowhere to go. Leon, I have no money." "Let me worry about that. Lock the door. Do not open it for anyone but me." She nodded, biting her split lip. She looked like a child being left alone in the dark. I hated it. I left. I had to. My world was calling. I spent 2 hours in a meeting with my capos. My mind a million miles away, I was distracted, short-tempered. I was thinking about broken window locks and a 4-year-old who liked chocolate. Nico caught me on the way out. "Boss, you're preoccupied." "Raid," I said. "I want him handled." "Handled?" "Out of the picture. I don't want him breathing the same air as her." Nico nodded, his face impassive. "It will be done." "Not yet," I said, thinking of Ava's words. "I don't want more violence. Wait for my word. Just know where he is." My personal phone rang. It was Ava, from the burner. My stomach clenched. I answered. "What's wrong?" It wasn't her voice. It was a scream. A high, terrified wail that was cut short, followed by a thud. "Ava!" Then I heard it. Pounding. Heavy. Violent pounding. And a man's voice. Muffled but raging. "Ava! I know you're in there. You bitch! Who was that? I saw his car. You think you're better than me? Bringing men around my daughter?" I was already in my car. "Nico, get to Elmwood, now." I broke every traffic law in the city. The 20-minute drive took 6. I could still hear the phone, which must have been dropped. I heard Lily screaming, a high, panicked shriek. I heard Ava sobbing. "Leave us alone, please, Marcus, go away." I screeched to a halt in front of the building, not even bothering to park. My man was at the front door, holding a sputtering, enraged man by the collar. It wasn't Marcus. It was the landlord. "He said he's her ex-boyfriend," the landlord yelled, pointing up the stairs. My man saw my face. "Boss, he came in the back. Fire escape. I heard the girl scream." I didn't wait. I took the stairs 3 at a time, my heart pounding with a cold, black fury I hadn't felt in years. I reached the 3rd floor. It was there. Marcus. He was thin, wired, his eyes buggy. He was kicking the door, the wood splintering, the chair I had wedged there rattling. "Ava, you're dead! You hear me? Dead!" He raised his foot for another kick. He never landed it. I didn't say a word. I grabbed him by the collar of his filthy jacket and the waistband of his jeans. He was light, all bone and spite. I ripped him away from the door and slammed him against the opposite wall. His head hit the plaster with a sickening crack. He wheezed, the air knocked out of him. He looked at me, his drug-crazed eyes wide with shock. He didn't know who I was. He just knew I wasn't the landlord. "Who the hell are you?" he spat. I didn't answer. I wrapped my hand in the front of his jacket and started walking. I dragged him toward the stairwell. He stumbled, trying to get his feet under him, trying to swing at me. I was immovable. I was a block of granite fueled by pure, unadulterated rage. "Get your hands off me!" he shrieked. I reached the landing and shoved him. Hard. He tumbled, rolling down the first few steps before catching himself on the railing. I walked down until I was standing over him. "You will not come back here," I said. My voice was low, devoid of all emotion. It was the voice I used when I was closing a deal that would end a man's life. "You can't tell me what to do. That's my family in there." He tried to stand, but he was shaking. "She is not your family. The child is not yours to terrorize." I took another step down. He shrank back. "You will not come to this street. You will not call her. You will not breathe her name to another living soul. If I see your shadow in this part of the city, I will make you disappear. Not jail. You won't be found. You will just be gone. Do you understand me?" He was sweating, the junky bravado fading, replaced by the real, animal fear of a predator who had just met an apex. He nodded, his eyes wide. "Get out!" He scrambled to his feet and fled, falling down the last flight of stairs and bursting out the front door. I stood there for a full minute, my hands clenched, my entire body humming with adrenaline. I wanted to kill him. It would have been easy, clean. But I saw her face. I don't want more violence. More. I turned and walked back up the stairs. The door to 301 was ajar. The phone was on the floor in the hallway. I picked it up and went inside. The apartment was chaos. The chair was overturned. Lily was screaming, hysterical, hiding behind the sofa. Ava was on the floor, curled into a ball, shaking so hard her teeth chattered. I closed the door, The sound of the lock clicking made Ava scream again. "It's me," I said. "It's Leon. He's gone." She looked up, her face white, tear-streaked. She saw me. She saw the rage still in my eyes, the violence I had just inflicted on her behalf. She scrambled to her feet and ran to the sofa, pulling her daughter out. "Shh, baby, shh. It's okay. Mommy's here. It's okay." She rocked the crying child, her back to me. I just stood there, the protector, the monster. I had brought this, my car, my presence. I had provoked him. Ava managed to calm Lily down, her voice a soothing, desperate murmur. She carried her to the cot and laid her down, stroking her hair until the sobs turned to whimpers, and finally, to exhausted, hiccuping sleep. She stood there for a long time, her back to me. Then she turned. I expected anger. I expected her to tell me to leave, to take my violence and my false promises and get out. She was shaking. She looked at me, at the door, at her daughter. She looked broken. She walked toward me, her steps unsteady. I braced myself. She stopped right in front of me. She looked up at my face. I was still rigid, my jaw tight, and then she did the last thing I ever expected. She leaned her head against my chest and burst into tears. Not the hysterical sobs from earlier. These were the deep, racking, silent sobs of profound and absolute exhaustion. Her small body shuddered against me. I was frozen. My arms were at my sides. I was a statue. I didn't do this. I didn't comfort people. I didn't hold. Her hands came up and grabbed the front of my sweater, clinging to it like a lifeline. Slowly, as if they didn't belong to me. My arms came up. I hesitated. Then I wrapped them around her. She was so small. She felt fragile, like a bird. I held her, one hand on her back, the other on her head, pressing her face into my shoulder. She was soaking my sweater. I didn't care. I just held her. I held her as she cried out all the fear, all the loneliness, all the pain of the last year. And I stood there, a pillar, taking the weight. That night, after Lily was asleep, we sat on the crumbling concrete steps of the apartment building. Nico's man was in a car across the street, a silent sentinel. The city air was cold, smelling of exhaust and river water. I had given her my jacket, which was ridiculously large on her. She was huddled inside it, her knees drawn to her chest. "I'm so tired," she whispered, staring at a crack in the pavement. I'm so tired of being scared. I'm tired of being alone. I thought, after I left him, I thought the system would help. The cops, the shelters." She shook her head. "They're full. They have no beds. Or they have rules I can't follow. I can't lose my job. But I can't leave Lily. The cops, they arrest him. He's out in 24 hours, and he's angrier. You're the first person who actually made him stop." She turned to look at me. Her face was pale in the yellow glow of the streetlight. "I'm so scared. Leon, I don't know what to do. He'll be back, or you'll be here, and he'll bring friends, or a gun. I've dragged you into this. I've dragged my daughter into this." "You didn't drag me anywhere," I said. "I came." The silence that fell between us was different. It wasn't empty. It was full of everything that had happened, the fear, the pancakes, the violence, the comfort. I looked at her. The bruise on her cheek was fading, turning a mottled yellow. Her split lip was healing. She was beautiful. Not in the polished, sterile way of the women in my world. She was beautiful in the way a wildfire is beautiful. She was a survivor. I reached up, my movements slow. She watched my hand. I brushed a strand of dark hair from her face, my fingers gently tracing the curve of her cheekbone, careful to avoid the bruise. My skin was rough against hers. She didn't flinch. She didn't pull away. She leaned into my touch. Her eyes searched mine. I saw fear. I saw exhaustion. And I saw something else. A flicker of want. She tilted her chin up, just a fraction, an invitation, a question. I hesitated. This was a line, a dangerous one. But I was so far past any line I'd ever drawn. I leaned in. I kissed her, It wasn't a kiss of passion. It wasn't hungry or demanding. It was tentative. It was a question. Her lips were soft, slightly chapped, and tasted of the bitter tea she'd been drinking. It was slow. It was a promise. I'm here. You're not alone. She made a small sound in the back of her throat, and her hand, which had been clutching the jacket, came up and rested on my chest, over my heart. She leaned into me, and the kiss deepened. But it was still gentle. It was full of a desperate, aching longing that had nothing to do with sex and everything to do with connection. We broke apart, but didn't move far. I was breathless. I rested my forehead against hers. I cupped her cheek, my thumb tracing the line of her jaw. We just stayed there, breathing the same cold air. Her small hand splayed on my chest. You feel like the first safe thing in years, she whispered, her voice thick. The words hit me like a punch. Safe. I was the least safe man in Briarfield. I was violence and darkness. I was everything she should run from. I couldn't answer her. I couldn't lie and say she was right. I couldn't tell her the truth and break her. So I just kissed her forehead, a long, firm press of my lips against her skin. Get inside, Ava, I murmured. It's cold. I stayed the night again, on the floor. The new, heavy-duty deadbolt I'd had Nico's man install felt more secure, but I didn't sleep. I sat with my back against the wall, listening to her breathe. Sometime in the deepest part of the night, it happened. She cried out, a high, thin scream. No, get off, please, don't! She bolted upright in her mattress, gasping, her hands thrashing at imaginary restraints. I was there before her eyes were even open. I was kneeling by her bed, and I took her hand, not to grab, I just covered it. She flinched, her eyes flying open, wild with night terror. She saw me. You're all right, I said, my voice a low rumble in the dark. You're here. He's not. You're safe. She stared at me, her chest heaving. Her gaze dropped to my hand, large and steady, completely covering hers. She didn't pull away. Her fingers uncurled, and she gripped my hand. She held on like she was drowning. I didn't move. I stayed right there, kneeling on the cold floor, holding her hand, a silent anchor in her storm, until her breathing slowed. Her grip loosened, and she fell back into a true, dreamless sleep. I made good on my word. I didn't stay on the floor, but I didn't leave. The next morning, I returned from my car with two men. They were Nico's best, shadows in expensive suits. They didn't look at Ava. They didn't look at Lily. They just took up positions, one at the end of the hall, one in a car across the street. I walked into the apartment, and Ava was standing by the window, peering through the blinds at the man on the street. Leon, what is this? She asked. Her voice was thin. It's protection. They won't let anyone near this building. They have guns, she stated. It wasn't a question. Yes. She turned to face me, her arms crossed tight. I don't want that. Ava, he came back. He kicked in the door while I was gone. And you handled him, but this, she gestured to the window, this is different. This is an occupation. I don't want Lily growing up thinking that a man with a gun in the hallway is normal. I don't want her looking out her window and seeing that. It's not safety, Leon. It's just a different kind of prison. I had no answer for that. In my world, guns were safety. They were the period at the end of a sentence. Here, in her world, they were the threat. I looked at the front door. The wood was split, the frame fractured. The new deadbolt I had installed was solid, but the door itself was a joke. I looked at the light in the hallway. It flickered, buzzing, casting a sick yellow light. All right, I said. She blinked. All right? No guns, not here. I went to the door, opened it, and spoke to my man in the hall. Stand down, both of you. Go back to the car. Maintain surveillance from a distance. I don't want her to see you, but I want Raid's location, always. The man nodded, his face impassive, and walked away. Ava let out a breath she seemed to have been holding all morning. Thank you. He'll be back, I said, turning to her. He knows I'm here. He's weak, but he's desperate. And desperate men are predictable. I know. I'll be back, I said. You're leaving? The panic was instant. I'm going to a hardware store. She stared at me, her brow furrowed. What? 2 hours later, I was back. I wasn't wearing my cashmere sweater or my leather driving shoes. I was in a simple black t-shirt and dark jeans I kept in the trunk of my car for emergencies, and I was carrying a heavy-duty steel door, a new frame, and a toolbox that had cost more than her first car. She just stood aside, her hand over her mouth, and watched. For the next 4 hours, I worked. I didn't ask for help. I tore out the splintered, cheap plywood door and its fractured frame. I measured, I leveled. I set the new, reinforced steel frame. I drilled the pilot holes for the bolts, the sound of the drill filling the small apartment. Ava just watched. She made coffee. She kept Lily busy on the cot with a coloring book. But mostly, she watched my hands. These were the same hands that had held her, the same hands that had terrified Marcus. Now, they were steady, precise, sinking screws into fresh wood. I installed the new deadbolt, the high-security lock set. I routed a new, solid brass chain. When I was done, I stepped back. The new door was solid, heavy, and impenetrable. It looked completely out of place in the crumbling hallway, like a bank vault door on a cardboard box. It's solid, she whispered, running her hand over the smooth, painted steel. It'll hold, I said. I turned and went to the hallway light. I cut the power at her breaker box, pulled the flickering, ancient fixture from the ceiling, and methodically wired a new one, a bright, clean LED light that didn't buzz. It illuminated the entire hallway. When I was done, I packed my tools. I was sweating. I'd forgotten what real labor felt like. Ava was leaning against the counter, a faint, disbelieving smile on her face. I don't understand you. You have men who can do this. You have men who do other things. Why are you covered in drywall dust? I wiped my face with a rag. My father was a mason, an immigrant, before he became what he became. He built things. He always said a man who couldn't fix his own house didn't deserve to own one. He taught me how to build. I just preferred breaking. I looked at the door, but this feels better. She held out a cup of coffee. I took it. Our fingers brushed. This time, she didn't flinch. I want to take you somewhere, I said. Somewhere? Out of this apartment? Out of this neighborhood? Just for an afternoon? You and Lily. You need to breathe air that doesn't smell like this hallway. She was hesitant, but she looked at the new door. She looked at the new light. Okay, she said. The next day, I drove them out of Briarfield. We drove for 45 minutes, leaving the grime and the noise behind, heading into the rolling green hills west of the city. Lily was strapped into a brand new car seat in the back of my Bentley, her eyes wide, watching the trees blur past. I pulled into a small, quiet park. It wasn't public. It was private land my family had owned for decades. There was a pond, a cluster of old oak trees, and a set of swings. No one else was there. For a few hours, we were just people. Lily, after her initial shyness, decided I was a climbing frame. She clung to my back. Demanding I be a horsey, I obliged. I pushed her on the swing, higher and higher, her laughter a bright, sharp sound in the clean air. Ava sat on a picnic blanket I'd brought, her knees drawn up, watching us, and she was smiling. Not the broken, tear-stained smile from the apartment. This was a real, unguarded smile. It lit her face. It erased the shadows. We ate sandwiches I'd bought from a high-end deli. Lily fell asleep in a patch of sun on the blanket, clutching her one-eyed bear. Ava and I sat in the quiet, watching the pond. I haven't heard her laugh like that in a long time, Ava said, her voice soft. Over a year. I haven't laughed like that. I forget what it feels like. It looks good on you, I said. She looked at me, her green eyes clear in the sunlight. You're a good man, Leon. The words hit me like a physical blow. Good man. It was a lie. A dangerous one. I was the man who had been pacing her apartment, vibrating with the urge to kill. "No, I'm not," I said, my voice flat. "Don't make that mistake." "You are. You're gentle with her. You fixed my door. You brought us here. You kissed me on the steps and then you slept on the floor. That's a good man." Before I could answer, before I could shatter her illusion, my pocket buzzed. My work phone. I ignored it. It buzzed again, insistent. "Excuse me," I said, standing up. I walked a dozen yards away, turning my back to her. "What?" I snapped into the phone. It was Nico. "Boss, you need to see this. The Briarfield Gazette just posted their early edition online. You're on the front page." A cold dread washed over me. "What is it?" "Old news. The dockworkers' union scandal from 5 years ago, but they've reopened it. They're painting you as the new boss. Extortion, loan sharking, violence. They're tying you to 2 disappearances. It's a hit piece. Leon, and it's everywhere." I hung up. I stood there for a long time, my back to her. The sun felt cold. "Leon?" Her voice was hesitant. "Is everything okay?" I turned around. I had to tell her, before she saw it somewhere else. But it was too late. She was holding her phone, the cheap one she'd managed to get a new plan for. Her face was ashen. She was reading. She was reading about me. She looked up. Her face was a mask of utter devastation. The betrayal was so profound, so absolute. It was like I had physically struck her. "Ava." "Who are you?" she whispered. She stood up, the phone falling from her hand. "It's real. That article. It's real, isn't it?" I couldn't lie. "Yes. Extortion, loan sharking, disappearances. Leon, it says you're a mob boss." "That's what they call it." She recoiled. It was the same flinch I'd seen when she thought I was going to hit her. But this was worse. This was a recoil of the soul. "You let me. You let my daughter. You let her cling to you. You made us pancakes. You fixed my door. And all this time, you're him. You're one of them." "Ava, it's not that simple." "It is," she yelled, her voice cracking, tears of rage and heartbreak streaming down her face. "It's exactly that simple. Oh, God, I'm so stupid. I'm so stupid. I brought you into my home. I let you hold my child. You're not safe. You're poison. You're just like Marcus. Just in a more expensive bottle." Her words were a knife, and they twisted. "I am nothing like him," I growled, taking a step toward her. "Stay away from me," she shrieked, backing up. "Stay away. You break legs, don't you? That's what it says. You threaten people. You hurt them. That's what you do. That's what you did to Marcus, wasn't it? That coldness. That wasn't protection. That was you. That was your job." "I have never," I said, my voice a low, hard rumble, "raised my hand to a woman. I have never dealt in drugs. I have never trafficked a human being. That was my father's world. It is not mine. My business is debt. My business is protection. Men make bad choices. They gamble money they don't have. They hurt people they shouldn't. I am the consequence. Yes, I have hurt people, but I have never hurt an innocent. And me? Am I innocent? Is Lily? What did you think was going to happen? That you could just be our handyman? And this other world, it would just, what? Stay away?" She was sobbing now, scrubbing at her face. I can't do this. I can't have this around her. I can't look at you. I thought you were safe, but you're the most dangerous thing that has ever happened to me." She grabbed the sleeping Lily, pulling her into her arms. The child stirred, whimpering. "Mommy?" "It's okay, baby. We're going home." The ride back was silent, a thick, agonizing, cold silence. Ava stared out the window, her body angled as far away from me as she could get. Lily, sensing the tension, was quiet. I pulled up to the curb. "Ava, please." "Get out," she whispered. "Let me." "Get out, Leon. Take your door and your car and your men, and leave us alone. We were surviving before you. We'll survive after. Just go. This was her choice. And in my world, I didn't beg. I didn't force. I nodded once. I put the car in park and got out. I opened her door. She scrambled out, clutching Lily, and ran for the front door of the building, fumbling with her keys. I got back in my car. I watched until she was inside. I picked up the burner phone, which was still on the passenger seat. I got out, walked to her door, and set it on the ground in front of it. I knocked once. I heard her gasp inside. "He's gone," I said to the door. "But you keep the phone. If you call, I will come. I promise you that." I walked away. I drove back to my penthouse. I showered. I put on a $3,000 suit. I went to my office and I became Leon Marcelli, the man from the newspapers. I was cold. I was ruthless. I was empty. It was the longest night of my life. At 3 a.m, the exact time she had first called, the burner phone on my nightstand rang, the one I had linked to hers. My heart stopped. I grabbed it and yes. It wasn't a scream. It was a whisper. A terrified, frozen whisper. "I'm scared." That was all. Then the line went dead. I was out of the penthouse in 30 seconds. I didn't call Nico. I didn't call for backup. This was not business. This was something else. I broke my own speed record. I hit Elmwood in 5 minutes. The street was dark, empty. I burst into the building. The new light I had installed was flickering. Someone had messed with it. I took the stairs, my hand on the gun at the small of my back. I got to her landing. He was there, Marcus. He wasn't pounding on the door. He was just standing there, leaning against the wall, under the flickering light. He had a small, cheap-looking pistol in his hand, held loosely at his side, and he was smirking. He saw me. His smirk widened. The drugs had made him brave or stupid. "He's back," he crooned, his voice high and thin. "The rich boyfriend. She called you, didn't she? Always calling someone else. Can't handle her own problems. Get away from her door, Marcus." "Or what?" he said, raising the gun. It shook in his hand. "You gonna drag me down the stairs again? Gonna act tough? I'm tough, too. See? I got the equalizer." I didn't stop moving. I walked toward him, my steps even measured. "I warned you," I said. "You warned me? You warned me? You come in. You take my woman. You take my kid." "She is not your woman." He screamed, a high, thin sound of pure rage, and raised the gun. He was too slow. The drugs made him jittery, but I was faster. I was on him before he could pull the trigger. I grabbed his wrist, slamming his hand against the wall. The gun clattered to the floor. He cried out. I didn't care. I grabbed the front of his shirt and slammed him against the concrete wall. His head hit with a dull, wet thud. The smirk was gone. "You didn't listen," I whispered, my voice a venomous hiss. I pulled him back and slammed him again, harder. A guttural sound of rage tore from my own chest. I was blind. All I could see was her face in the park, the betrayal. All I could feel was her body, flinching from me. All I could hear was that whisper, "I'm scared." I slammed him again. "You didn't listen." He was groaning, his eyes rolling back. Blood was coming from his nose, from his mouth. I didn't care. I was going to kill him. I was going to wipe him off the face of the earth. I raised my fist to finish it. "Leon, stop!" Her voice. It cut through the red haze. I stopped, my fist raised. I was breathing like I'd run a mile. I turned. She was standing in the doorway of her apartment, her face bone white, her hand over her mouth. "You're killing him," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Stop, please, don't become like him." I looked at her, and then I looked at the pathetic, bleeding, unconscious thing I was holding up by the shirt. He was nothing. I let him go. He slumped to the ground, a pile of dirty laundry and broken bones. He was breathing, a wet, rattling sound, but he was alive. I stood there, my chest heaving, my knuckles split and bleeding. I had almost done it. Right here in her hallway, I had almost become the monster she feared. I turned away from Marcus. I looked at Ava. She was trembling, clutching her robe, but she didn't run. She just watched me. I kicked the gun away. It slid to the far end of the hall. "Go inside, Ava. Lock your door." I walked back into her apartment. She followed, her eyes wide, and locked the steel door behind her. Lily was still asleep, by some miracle. I went to her sink. I turned on the cold water and shoved my hands under it, watching the blood, his blood, my blood, swirl down the drain. I couldn't stop shaking. It wasn't fear. It was adrenaline. It was the come down from the rage. I paced. I walked from the sink to the window to the door, a caged animal. I had lost control. She had seen it. I had proven her right. I was poison. I heard a small sound. I stopped pacing. She was standing in the middle of the room, just watching me. She wasn't crying anymore. Her face was pale, but her eyes were clear. "You should go," I said, my voice a rasp. I couldn't look at her. "You were right." I waited for her to agree, to tell me to get out. She didn't. She walked toward me. I tensed. She stopped, right in front of me. She looked at my raw, bleeding knuckles. She looked at my face. And she reached up, her hand trembling, and placed it flat on my chest. I froze. I could feel the warmth of her palm through my t-shirt. My heart was still hammering, a wild, frantic rhythm against her hand. "You stopped," she whispered. I looked down at her. Her face was full of something I couldn't name. It wasn't fear. It wasn't pity. "You stopped," she said again, her voice stronger. He never would have. She rose on her toes. She put her other hand on my shoulder, and she kissed me. It wasn't the hesitant, trembling kiss on the steps. It wasn't a question. It was an answer. It was desperate. It was deep. It was her, claiming me. It was a kiss of raw, absolute need. She tasted of salt from her tears. Her lips were firm, demanding. She was kissing me like she was starving, and I was the only thing that could save her. A groan tore from my chest, a sound of pure surrender. My hands came up, my bloody knuckles tangling in her hair, and I kissed her back. This was not gentle. This was not a rescue. This was a collision. I kissed her with all the rage I'd felt in the hallway, with all the emptiness I'd felt in my penthouse. I kissed her with the shame of what I'd almost done, and the terrifying, desperate need to be the man who fixed her door, not the one who broke her enemies. She whimpered, her fingers digging into my shoulders, and I lifted her. Her legs wrapped around my waist without a thought. I carried her, pressing her against the wall, my mouth never leaving hers. I was devouring her. She was letting me. I carried her to the mattress on the floor. We fell onto it, a tangle of limbs and desperation. It wasn't about love. It wasn't about romance. It was about two broken people, clinging to each other in the dark after the monsters had been driven back. I was on top of her. Her robe had fallen open. Her hands were on my face. My hands were on her hips. And all we did was kiss. Deep, bruising, frantic kisses. It was a promise. It was a confession. It was the only thing in the world that made sense. I woke slowly. It wasn't the sterile, temperature-controlled silence of my penthouse. It was the sound of a city waking up 4 floors below. A garbage truck, a distant horn, the murmur of a neighbor's television through the thin walls, and it was warm. I was on the mattress, on the floor, tangled in her sheets. The morning light was gray, filtering through the same dirty window, but it felt different. I wasn't on guard. I wasn't on the floor by the door. I was in her bed. I turned my head. Ava was awake, propped on her elbow, watching me. Her hair was a dark, soft mess, and the morning light softened the fading yellow of her bruises. She wasn't scared. Her gaze was open, curious, searching. Her fingers were tracing something on my shoulder, a light, feather-like touch that had me holding my breath. I looked down. Her hand was small against my skin. She was tracing the scar. It was an old one, a puckered, ugly ridge of tissue that ran from my collarbone over my left shoulder. It wasn't my worst scar, but it was the one that mattered. "What happened?" she whispered. Her voice was rough with sleep. "I never talked about this. Not to my men, not to my father, not to anyone. It was a locked room, and I was the only one with the key. But her touch was... It wasn't demanding. It was just there. Gentle." "I was 16, I said. My own voice sounded strange to me. "My brother, Antonio, was 14. He was soft. He liked books. He liked music. He wasn't like me." I stared at the cracked ceiling, seeing a different one. "My father had enemies. He always had enemies. They wanted leverage. They took Antonio. They thought he was the one who mattered. I was just the hothead, the screw-up. They were wrong." I paused. The memory was always cold. "I found him. I found the warehouse they were keeping him in. I went in alone. Stupid. 16 and bulletproof. I had a pipe. They had more. I got this." I touched the scar on my shoulder. "A box cutter. He was trying to stop me from getting to Antonio. I took him down, but it was too late." I closed my eyes. They'd already. He was gone. He died because I wasn't fast enough, because I wasn't strong enough. I turned my head to look at her. Her green eyes were swimming. "That's why I am what I am. Ava, I'm not my father. I don't care about the drugs or the trafficking. That's filth. I care about control. I built my entire world, my entire organization, on one single promise. The people I protect are never, ever touched. I will never be too late again. When you called, when I heard that fear in your voice, all I could hear was him." She didn't say anything. She just slid closer, her body warm against mine. She moved her hand from the scar and placed it on my chest, right over my heart. She rested her head on my other shoulder, her hair tickling my chin. We lay there in silence. The city noise faded. There was just her breathing. "Marcus," she whispered, her voice muffled against my skin. "The first time he hit me, I was so shocked. I left. I took Lily, but he found me. He cried. He said it would never happen again, and I believed him." She shuddered. "It happened again, and it got worse. Soon. Touch wasn't touch. It was a threat. It was a prelude to pain. A hand on my shoulder meant a shove. His hand in my hair meant a pull. When he wanted, it was just something I had to get through, something to survive." She lifted her head, and her eyes were fierce. "I haven't felt this in years. I don't even know what this is. To just lie here. To have someone's arms around me and not be terrified. To not be waiting for the other shoe to drop." She touched my face, her thumb brushing my lower lip. "Last night," she said, her voice dropping, it was a storm. But this morning, this is safe. You make me feel safe. Leon, even after everything I know about you." I pulled her to me, and it wasn't the frantic, desperate grappling of the night before. This was slow. I kissed her forehead. I kissed the fading bruise on her cheek. I kissed her mouth, and it was a slow, deep kiss that had no agenda. It was just a confirmation. "I am here. You are safe." It was a tenderness I didn't know I possessed. The spell was broken by a small sound from the cot. "Mommy?" Ava pulled back, a small, breathless laugh escaping her. She was blushing. I had never seen her blush. "I'm here, baby," she called, sliding out of the bed, pulling her robe tight. While she got Lily dressed and made toast, I made a call. I stepped into the hallway, by the new steel door, and dialed Nico. "What?" I kept my voice low. "He's gone. Boss." A cold prickle. "Gone where?" "Vanished, dropped off the map. My men lost him after you, handled him, in the hallway. He didn't go to an emergency room, he didn't go to his usual flop, he's in the wind. Find him." "We're trying, but there's something else. A patrol car has been sitting at the end of the block for 20 minutes, not moving." "Cops?" "Looks like it. They're not from this precinct." I hung up just as I heard the knock. It wasn't on Ava's door. It was on the neighbor's Then the next one, a systematic sweep of the floor. I stepped back inside. Ava looked at me, her hand on Lily's shoulder. "Who is that?" "Stay here," I said. The knock came at our door. Not a pound, a sharp, official rap. I opened it. A uniformed cop. He was in his late 40s, a thick mustache, a face that had seen too much and cared too little. His eyes flicked to me, then past me, into the apartment. He saw Ava. He saw Lily. His gaze lingered on the new steel door. "Ma'am, Ava Delaney?" he asked, ignoring me completely. "Yes," Ava said, her voice trembling. "We're canvassing. Received an anonymous tip about disturbances at this address. Shouting, violence, and about a known associate of organized crime frequenting this apartment." His eyes landed on me, cold, appraising. He knew exactly who I was. "Is this man bothering you, ma'am?" Ava was frozen. I stepped forward slightly. "She's fine. I'm a friend. I fixed her door." The cop's mouth twisted in a smirk. "You're Leon Marcelli. I know who you are, and I know what you fix." He looked back at Ava, his tone changing. It became oily, pitying. "Ma'am, you need to be very careful. Associating with a man like this, it's not a good look, especially for a single mother." Ava paled. What does that mean?" "It means Child Protective Services tends to listen when the police make a report. They don't like to see kids in unstable environments with men like Mr. Marcelli, with men who get into bloody fights in the hallway." This was it, the threat. It wasn't a gun. It was a clipboard. It was a social worker. It was the one thing that could destroy her. I'm not, Ava stammered. "We'll be watching Miss Delaney," the cop said, his voice hard. "Be smart. You wouldn't want to lose that beautiful little girl. Have a nice day." He tipped his hat and walked away. I closed the door. The sound of the deadbolt sliding home was obscenely loud in the silence. Ava sank onto the chair, her legs giving out. She put her head in her hands. She wasn't crying. She was just gone. Empty. "They're going to take her," she whispered. "They're going to take Lily." "No, they're not." I went to the sink, my mind racing, the newspaper, the cop. This wasn't a coincidence. This was a coordinated attack. Marcus was a junkie. He wasn't smart enough to pull this off. "This isn't the police. Ava, this is a rival. His name is Santino Creed. He's old school. My father's generation. He thinks I'm weak. He's using the cops to squeeze me, to frame me." "I don't care who it is," she said, her head snapping up, her eyes blazing. "They're using me. They're using my daughter. This is because of you. I knew it. I knew you were poison. I let you in, and you brought this world right to my door. And I'm going to handle it." I said. I pulled out my phone. "Handle it? Like you handled Marcus. More violence. That cop is just going to come back with a warrant and a social worker. You can't shoot a social worker. Leon." She was right. This was a different kind of fight. "Nico," I said into the phone, "I want everything on a Detective Miller, Briarfield Police, badge number 428. I want to know who he drinks with, who he owes, who's on his payroll. And I want everything on Santino Creed. I want to know what he ate for breakfast. Now." I hung up and looked at Ava. She was watching me, her face a mask of terror. Before I could say anything, her own phone, the cheap one, rang from the counter. She flinched, staring at it like it was a snake. "Answer it, Nay," I said. She picked it up, her hand shaking. "Hello?" Her face changed. The terror was replaced by confusion, disbelief. "Brenda, yes, I'm fine. Why? A part-time opening on the pediatric floor, weekends? Yes, I don't know." She listened, her eyes wide. She looked at me. Can I call you back in 1 hour? Thank you. Yes, thank you." She hung up the phone, placing it down very carefully. "My old job," she whispered. "My old supervisor, Brenda, she said she fought for me. She knows what Marcus did. They have a part-time opening, weekend nights. She wants to know if I can start on Saturday." She looked around the tiny, miserable apartment. It's a chance. It's a way out. My life back. But, I asked. But, Leon, did you not just hear that cop? I'm being watched. What if they follow me? What if they harass me at work? What if I leave Lily here and that cop comes back? She was spiraling, caught between the life she wanted and the one she was trapped in. I grabbed her shoulders, not hard, just enough to stop her from shaking. Ava, look at me. She met my gaze. You take the job? I can't. You will. You will not let them win. You will not let them lock you in this apartment. That is exactly what they want. They want you scared. They want you weak. You are not weak. You are the strongest person I have ever met. You will take that job. You will walk out that steel door, and you will go get your life back. And Lily? She whispered, her voice breaking. Who protects her? I do, I said. You take the job. I will handle the rest. I will be here. I will arrange a new place, a safe place, an apartment they don't know about. Until then, when you are at work, I will be in this room. I will sit on this floor, and I will not move until you walk back through that door. I promise you. Her eyes searched mine, looking for the lie. She didn't find one. She nodded. Okay, I'll call her. The next few days were a blur. I moved them. I didn't ask. I just did it. I had an apartment in a high-rise downtown, not my penthouse, a corporate lease under a shell company. It was clean, furnished, with a doorman and security cameras. It was sterile. It was safe. Ava packed their few belongings in 2 suitcases and a cardboard box. When we walked out of the Crestview, she didn't look back. She started her job that Saturday. She put on her old white scrubs, and she looked whole. She looked like the woman she was supposed to be. I drove her. I watched her walk into the hospital, her head held high. I went back to the new apartment and sat with Lily. We built a pillow fort. She made me pretend to be a dragon. I read her a book about a caterpillar. It was the most surreal, terrifying, and profoundly peaceful evening of my life. When Ava came home at dawn, she was exhausted, but her eyes were bright. I did it, she whispered, leaning against the door. I'm a nurse again. I just nodded, a strange, tight feeling in my chest. A week passed. We fell into a new, strange rhythm, a life. During the day, I was Leon Marcelli, the boss. I met with Nico. I learned that Detective Miller was on Santino Creed's payroll. I learned that Creed was moving, trying to consolidate power, trying to paint me as unstable and draw the attention of the commission. He was using Ava as a pawn to make me look sloppy. But at night, I was just Leon. I would come to the safe house. Ava would be home. Lily would be asleep. And we would just be. One night, I brought wine, a good bottle. I brought pasta from a place downtown that knew me. We sat at a real dining table. I had brought a small speaker. I put on some music, quiet jazz. After we ate, I stood up and held out my hand. What? She asked, a small smile playing on her lips. Dance with me? Here, in the kitchen? Here in the kitchen. She took my hand, I pulled her to her feet, and I drew her close. She rested her head on my chest, and we just swayed. We didn't talk. I held her. I breathed in the smell of her hair, that clean soap and Ava smell. She felt solid in my arms, real. The music was a low thrum against my chest. I pulled back just enough to look at her. I lifted her hand, the one that had been resting on my shoulder, and I turned it over. I kissed her palm. It wasn't a kiss of passion. It was a kiss of reverence for her strength, for her survival. She looked up at me, her eyes soft. I want this, she whispered, her voice catching. I don't mean the fancy apartment. I don't mean the wine. I mean this, the quiet, the peace, feeling safe, dancing in a kitchen. She leaned her head back against my chest. I'm so tired of just surviving. Leon, I want a life. I want to wake up and not be scared. I want to watch my daughter play in a park and not be looking over my shoulder. I want this. I held her tighter. "You'll have it," I murmured into her hair. "I swear to you, Ava, you'll have it." It was the next day, a Tuesday. Ava had a short 4-hour shift, just an afternoon check-in. I was in a meeting across town, a meeting with a man who owed me a lot of money, a meeting I couldn't miss. I told her I'd be back before she was. I told her the doorman was solid, that the building was secure. My meeting ran long. The man was a whining coward, and it took longer than I expected to correct his thinking. I was driving back, my phone on the passenger seat. When it rang, it was Ava. I smiled. "Hey, I'm almost there." "Leon." The voice. It was wrong. It was dead, flat. My smile vanished. The traffic, the city, it all disappeared. "Ava, what's wrong? Talk to me." "She's gone." "Leon." "What? Gone where? Did she—" "No, I came home from the hospital, the apartment. It was unlocked. I thought maybe you were here." Her voice broke, a high, thin, agonizing sound. "She's not here, Leon. Lily's gone. She's gone." I spun the car, tires screaming, turning over a median, horns blared. I didn't care. "I'm coming," I said, my voice a low growl. "I'm 2 minutes out. Is there anything? Did they leave anything?" "A note," she sobbed. "On her bed, on her pillow. Oh, God. Oh, God, Leon." I pulled up to the curb. Leaving the car in the fire lane, I burst into the lobby, ignoring the doorman, and took the elevator. When the doors opened on her floor, I could hear a sound of animal grief. The door to the apartment was open. She was on the floor in Lily's new room, rocking back and forth, holding a single white envelope. I knelt in front of her. She didn't seem to see me. She was just gone. Broken. I gently, very gently, took the note from her hand. My hands were steady. My breathing was even. The world had gone very, very quiet. I opened the envelope. It was one sheet of paper, simple, typed words. "Leave Marcelli, or the girl's gone." I read the words once, twice. I looked at Ava, this woman who I had promised to protect, this woman who I had told could have a life, now shattered on the floor. I looked at the empty cot. I stood up. I folded the note and put it in my pocket. Ava looked up at me, her face a ravaged mask of tears and terror. "Leon." I put a hand on her shoulder. "Get up." "I can't." "Get up." My voice was not gentle. It was not the man who danced in the kitchen. She flinched, but she did it. She got to her feet, swaying, using me for balance. I looked at her, my face carved from stone, all the warmth, all the softness. All the man who had built a pillow fort was gone. "They've touched family," I said. My voice was cold. It was flat. It was the sound of a promise being made, and this time, it was not a promise of safety. It was a promise of annihilation. The note was a death sentence. It was a failure. It was the one thing I had built my entire life to prevent. I stood in the silence of the sterile, safe apartment, a monument to my own arrogance. I had put them in a cage with a gold-plated lock, and the wolves had simply walked in and taken what they wanted. Ava was where I had left her, on her knees, her body rocking, a low, animal sound of grief coming from her throat. The sound was a blade twisting in my gut. "Ava." She didn't look up. "Ava, get up." My voice was flat, devoid of everything. There was no room for comfort. Comfort was a lie. She flinched at the tone and looked at me. Her face was a ruin, streaked with tears, her eyes wide and vacant with a terror I knew I would never forget. "He took her," she whispered. "Leon, he took her." "Yes." I pulled my phone from my pocket. "And we are going to get her back." I didn't give her a choice. I grabbed her arm and pulled her to her feet. She was unsteady, her legs collapsing. I held her up. "You will not break," I commanded, my voice low and brutal. I held her face, forcing her to look at me. "Grief is a luxury. We don't have time. You will hold on. You will be ready. Because when I find her, She's going to need her mother. Do you understand me?" She stared, her breath hitching. She saw the man I was, not the man who danced in the kitchen, the man from the newspapers, the man who made promises with iron. She nodded a single convulsive jerk. I let her go. She stumbled to the sofa and sat, her hands knotted in her lap, her body vibrating, but she wasn't wailing. She was waiting. I made 3 calls. The first was to Nico. Code red, my location. Bring everyone, every car, every man on the payroll. I want eyes on every street corner, every bus station, every highway out of this city. Now. The second was to a man named Sal. He was old school. He didn't like me, but he'd hated my father, which meant he respected the lines of business. He ran the docks. Sal, it's Marcelli. Santino Creed just crossed a line. He took a child. Silence on the other end, then a low growl. A child? That old bastard. He knows the rules. What do you need? His movements, any of his men seen at the docks, any of his known warehouses? Anything, Sal. This is not about business. This is about blood. You'll have it. I'll put the word out. Creed just spat on every grave in this city. He's a dead man. The third call was to my bank, or rather, the man who ran it. I need $5 million cash, unmarked, in 1 hour. I hung up. The apartment filled with men. Within 20 minutes, my downtown safe house was a war room. Nico had laptops open, surveillance feeds, maps of the city spread across the dining room table. My men were quiet, professional. They knew. They saw my face. This wasn't business. This was war. Boss, Nico pointed to a screen. The doorman, he's gone. He didn't see anything? He's the one who let them in. He's vanished. He was on Creed's payroll. He disabled the elevator camera for 2 minutes. That's all it took. A flash of white-hot rage. I had trusted the building's security. A rookie mistake. My mistake. Find him, I said. Already looking, but there's more. He tapped another screen. Street cam. Half a block down. We got the car, a black sedan. Plates are fake, but the car is specific. It's one of Creed's. We know his fleet. Where did it go? North? Headed out of the city? We're tracking every highway camera now. But, Leon... I turned. Marcus Raid, Nico said, his voice tight. He was spotted 2 hours ago, at a diner near Creed's waterfront territory. He was meeting with 2 of Creed's men. He was paid. This was him. He gave them the access. He gave them the opening. The pieces clicked into place. The cop, the newspaper, the setup. Marcus wasn't just a pawn. He was the key. He had sold Lily to get to Ava, to get to me. He just sold his own life, I whispered. Ava made a sound. She was standing by the window, her back to the room. This is my fault, she said, her voice dead. I'm a curse. Everything I touch, I destroy. I trusted Marcus. I trusted you. I'm the reason she's gone. He's punishing me. I crossed the room in 2 strides. I stood behind her. I wanted to shake her. I wanted to hold her. I did neither. No, I said. This is not your fault. This is my world. This is the filth I deal in. I brought this to your door. I painted a target on your back. This is my sin, Ava, and I will pay for it. She turned, her eyes hollow. How? By getting her killed? By starting a war in the street? Oh God, Leon, she's just a baby. She's 4 years old. She's probably crying. She's asking for me. Her knees buckled. This time, I caught her. I held her body stiff with agony, and I let her sob into my chest, but only for a moment. We don't have time for this. Ava, I said, my voice gentle but firm, you want to blame someone. Blame me. Blame him. But do it later. Right now, we move. I need you. I need you sharp. I held her at arm's length. Where would he go? Marcus, a place he felt safe, an old haunt, somewhere he took you? She shook her head, scrubbing at her tears. I don't know, he had places, flop houses, but there was one place, a long time ago, before it got bad, he had an uncle, an old farm, way out past the city limits, north, near the old highway. He said he used to go there to get clean. I don't even know if his uncle is still alive. It was just a place he mentioned, an abandoned farmhouse. North, I said to Nico. He was already on the map. Boss, one of my men shouted from the laptop. Got him, the car. It exited Highway 31. It's a dead-end road. There's nothing out there for 10 miles. Except, he zoomed in on the satellite map. A single, small structure. A farmhouse. That's it, I said. I grabbed my keys. I checked the gun at the small of my back. I'm going, Ava said, grabbing her jacket. No, you're staying here. Where it's safe. Safe? She let out a laugh that was more like a scream. You think this is safe? You think I'm going to sit here in this tomb while you go play gangster for my daughter's life? She is mine. I am going. Ava, there will be guns. There will be men who will not hesitate to shoot you to get to me. I don't care. Her eyes were blazing, the green lit with a fire I had never seen. The fear was gone, replaced by a pure, unadulterated maternal rage. I'm not sitting here. I will be in that car, or you can shoot me yourself, but I am not waiting. I looked at her. She was not the woman I had met in the crumbling apartment. She was not the nurse who had danced in my arms. This was a lioness, and she was right. Nico, I said, you're with me. 3 men. That's it. Small footprint. We go in quiet. The rest of you, lock this city down. Nothing of Creed's moves. I turned to Ava. Stay in the car. No matter what you hear, no matter what you see, you do not move. That is the only way I can protect you both. Swear it. She nodded, her jaw tight. I swear. The drive was silent. The city lights fell away, replaced by the dark, lonely stretch of old Highway 31. The tension in the car was a physical thing, a heavy blanket. Ava sat in the passenger seat, staring straight ahead, her hands clenched so tight her knuckles were white. I put my hand over hers. She flinched, but she didn't pull away. Her fingers uncurled and laced with mine. Her hand was ice cold. This is my fault, she whispered, staring at the dark road. I knew who he was. I let him in. I loved him. Once. And he's punishing me. This is my fault, I said, my voice a low growl. I was arrogant. I put you in that apartment. I made you a target. He's not punishing you. Ava, he's trying to get to me. This is on me. We didn't say anything else. We just held on. 2 broken, blaming people, driving into the dark. We killed the headlights a mile out. Nico drove by moonlight. The farmhouse was a dark shape on a low hill, skeletal trees surrounding it. It was isolated, no neighbors for miles. I saw a single light in a downstairs window. 1 car, Nico whispered, pointing to a dark sedan parked behind the house. The one from the camera. We go in, I said. Nico, you take the back, 2 men with me, through the front, quiet. What about me? Ava asked, her voice a fierce whisper. You stay. You swore. I didn't wait for her to argue. We were out of the car, moving low and fast through the tall, dead grass. The house was silent, except for the wind. We reached the porch. It creaked under my weight. I froze. From inside, a voice. Marcus. You said you just wanted to scare her. You said no one would touch the kid. He sounded high, jittery. And no one has, another voice said, cold, cultured, Santino Creed. She's in the other room, asleep, probably. You gotta let me see her. I need to know she's okay. You don't need anything, you pathetic junkie, Creed spat. You got your money. You did your part. Marcelli is exposed. He's sloppy. He's letting a woman cloud his judgment. The commission will see that. He'll be finished. This wasn't about him, Marcus shrieked. This was about her. She left me. She thought she was too good for me, with him. I just wanted her to need me again. I just wanted my family back. You're a fool, Creed said. Now get out. My men will deal with Marcelli when he comes, and he will come. That was my cue. I didn't knock. I kicked the door. It exploded open. I was inside in a second. Creed was by the fireplace, reaching inside his jacket. Marcus was by a table, his eyes wide with terror. There were 2 other men in the room, guards, both scrambling for their guns. Nico and my men were faster. The room exploded with sound. Not a long, drawn-out battle, just 3, precise, silent shots. The 2 guards went down before they could even raise their weapons. Creed was smart, and he didn't go for his gun, just raised his hands, a look of mild annoyance on his face, as if I'd interrupted his dinner. "Leon," he said, nodding, "always so dramatic." "Where is she?" I growled, my gun leveled at his chest. "Right here!" A scream from the hallway. Marcus, he had bolted, he had a gun, and he had Lily. He was dragging her, her small feet stumbling, his arm locked around her chest. She was crying, her face terrified. "Stay back, Marcelli. All of you, I'll do it, I swear to God. I'll shoot her." "Marcus, let her go," I said, my voice calm. I took a step. "No, she's mine. You took her from me. You both did." I was calculating the shot. It was risky, too risky. "Leon, no!" "Ava." She burst through the door I had kicked open. She must have run from the car. Her face was a mask of pure, primal rage. "Get away from my daughter!" she screamed. Marcus turned, surprised. "Ava, see what he's done? I can save us. We can—" He was distracted. It was all the opening she needed. She didn't hesitate. She didn't bargain. She ran at him, a low, guttural scream tearing from her throat, and she tackled him. Hard. They went down in a heap. The gun went skittering across the floorboards. Lily, she was free, but she was falling. I moved. A shot rang out, not from Marcus, from Creed. He had a small gun, an ankle piece. He wasn't aiming at me. He was aiming at Ava. I threw myself sideways, shoving Ava and Lily toward the floor. Just as the bullet hit, it was a hot, white poker, slammed into my side. It stole my breath. I hit the floor, the pain a nova in my ribs, but I didn't let go of my gun. I rolled, brought it up, and fired twice. Creed looked down at his chest, a look of genuine surprise on his face, before he collapsed. Silence. My side was on fire. I couldn't breathe. "Leon!" Ava screamed. I looked. Marcus was scrambling to his feet. He was running for the back door. He burst out into the night. "Nico!" I yelled, my voice a strained gasp. Nico, who had just entered from the back, understood. He took off after Marcus. I was alone with them, Ava and Creed's body and the dead guards. "Lily? Oh, baby, are you okay?" Ava was on her knees, pulling her daughter into her arms. Lily was sobbing, clinging to her mother's neck, burrowing into her. Mommy, he was bad." "I know, baby, I know. I've got you. You're safe. I've got you." Ava was rocking her, her own tears streaming down her face. She looked at me. Her eyes went from my face to my side. Her hand flew to her mouth. "Leon, you're bleeding." I looked down. My shirt was dark, soaked. The adrenaline was fading, and the pain was vast. I pushed myself into a sitting position. My teeth gritted. "I'm fine." "You're not fine." She shifted Lily to one hip and crawled to me. "You're shot. Oh, God, you're shot." It's fine." Nico came back in. He was breathing hard. "He's gone. Got into the woods. It's too dark. We'll never find him tonight, Ma." "No." I looked at Ava, who was holding Lily, her face pale with terror. I looked at the body of Santino Creed. This had to end. "Let him go," I said. "Boss?" Nico stared at me. "Let him go. He's nothing. He's a rat without a hole. He has no money, no drugs, no one. He's just a ghost. He'll die out there." Nico looked like he wanted to argue, but he saw my face. He nodded. I turned to Ava. Is she okay?" "She's okay. She's terrified, but she's okay." Ava's hand was on my side, pressing against the wound, as if she could stop the bleeding with sheer force of will. "We have to get you to a hospital." "No," I said. "No hospitals." And then I heard it. Faint. In the distance. Sirens. Someone had heard the shots and called it in. The police? Ava whispered, her eyes wide. I grabbed Nico's arm. Get me up. He hauled me to my feet. The world spun. The pain was a whiteout. Boss, you can't. Get me to the car. Now. Get the men. We were never here. I looked at Ava. She was holding Lily, her face a mask of anguish. Leon, you can't. You're bleeding. They'll help you. They'll arrest me, I said, my voice a rasp. Ava, they will find you. You and Lily. You were here. You were a hostage. Creed took you. I was never here. Do you understand? No, I won't. I won't let you. I stumbled toward her. I put my hand, my clean hand, on her cheek. I looked at Lily. You're safe now, I whispered. He's gone. Creed is gone. It's over. The sirens were closer. Red and blue lights flashed at the end of the long road. I have to go. No, please, her voice broke. I took off my jacket, the heavy black leather one I'd worn. I wrapped it around her and Lily, covering them both. It was warm. It smelled of me. Stay safe, Ava. I turned, leaning on Nico, and stumbled out the back door into the darkness of the woods. Ava stood in the doorway, clutching her daughter, wrapped in my jacket. The flashing lights were getting closer, washing the room in red and blue. She watched me disappear into the trees. Come back to us, she whispered, her voice lost in the wind and the growing wail of the sirens. The world did not stop spinning, but it wobbled. Nico's men had found me in the woods, bleeding, half-conscious. I spent 2 weeks in a private, unregistered clinic run by a doctor who owed me his entire career. The bullet had missed anything vital, but it had torn through muscle, and it had taken a piece of me. I had a new scar, an angry red line along my ribs, a matching set for the one on my shoulder. I healed, physically. But my penthouse, with its glass walls and its sterile, empty silence, had become a prison. I would stand and look out over Briarfield, but I wasn't seeing the city. I was seeing a farmhouse. I was seeing a steel door. I was seeing her face, pale and terrified, in the red and blue flashing lights. The police had accepted Ava's story. She was a victim, a hostage. Santino Creed, a known organized crime figure, had been found dead, along with 2 of his men. An anonymous tip had led them there. The papers called it a gangland execution. The woman, Ava Delaney, and her daughter had been found at the scene, traumatized but unharmed, rescued by an unknown hero who had disappeared before police arrived. Marcus Raid had vanished. Nico's men reported he'd been seen, skeletal and desperate, hopping a freight train headed west. He was a ghost. He was nothing. The threat was over. It was all clean. But it was empty. For Ava, life began to reform. The trauma of that night was a shadow that would always linger. But the light was finally returning. She kept the apartment I had leased. After the first month, she insisted on taking over the payments. I didn't argue. I just had my finance man transfer the lease to her name and arrange for the rent to be a quarter of what it should be, without her knowing. She went back to work, not part-time, full-time. She walked the halls of Briarfield General's pediatric wing with a new, quiet confidence. Her past had been scoured clean by Creed's death and Marcus's disappearance. She was no longer a liability. She was a survivor. Her co-workers, the other nurses, treated her with a kind of awe. They had all heard the story. The whispers followed her, not of scandal, but of legend. I heard he took on 3 of them, one nurse whispered to another at the station, just loud enough for Ava to hear. Brenda told me he was a ghost, just appeared, took out the trash, and vanished like some kind of dark night. She won't talk about it, another said, looking at Ava, who was calmly checking a patient's chart. But look at her. She's different. She's not scared anymore. Ava just signed the chart and moved on. She wasn't scared, but she was lonely. The new apartment was safe. The doorman, a new one, handpicked by Nico, was kind, Lily was in a preschool program. She was laughing again. She was drawing pictures, not of monsters, but of parks and swings and a little girl with a mommy. But the nights were long. One evening, 4 weeks after the farmhouse, Ava was folding laundry. Lily was playing on the floor, surrounded by her toys. She pulled something from the bottom of the empty basket. It was my leather jacket. Ava hadn't known what to do with it. She couldn't throw it away. She couldn't wear it. She had washed it, trying to get the faint, coppery smell of my blood out of the lining, and it had sat, forgotten, in the laundry. Lily, who was now 5, held it up. It was absurdly large, dragging on the floor. "It's Leon's," she said, her voice small. Ava stopped folding. She stared at the jacket. "Yes, baby, it is." Lily buried her face in the soft, worn leather. "It smells like him. Like pancakes in the park." She looked up, her small face serious, her eyes wide. "Mommy, is Leon ever coming back?" Ava's breath caught. It was the question that hung in the air of the apartment. Every single day. The question she was too afraid to ask the universe. She knelt and took her daughter's hands. "I don't know, baby," she whispered, her voice thick. "I don't know where he is. I hope so, but I don't know." "I miss him," Lily said, her lower lip trembling. "He was our dragon." Ava pulled her daughter into a hug, her own eyes flooding. "I miss him too, baby. I miss him too." Later that night, after Lily was asleep, Ava stood by the floor-to-ceiling window of her new apartment. The city glittered below, a sea of indifferent lights. She was safe. She had her daughter. She had her job. She had her life back. But she would have traded all the glittering lights for the sight of a dark Bentley pulling up to the curb. She looked out that window every single night before she went to bed. She was looking for a ghost. I waited 6 weeks. 6 weeks for the heat to die. 6 weeks for the police to close the case. 6 weeks for my side to heal into a dull, puckered line. 6 weeks to convince myself that staying away was the right thing, that I was poison, that she was better off. It was a lie, and I was tired of lying. I knew it was Lily's birthday. I knew because I had made Nico find out. The park was the one from before, the private one. I had sent Ava a simple, anonymous text that morning. "The park is open, take Lily. She should have a good birthday." She knew it was me. I stood at a distance, at the edge of the trees, hidden in the shadows. I watched them. Ava had brought a small cake. Brenda, her supervisor, was there. They were laughing. Lily was wearing a pink dress and a paper crown. She was beautiful. She was safe. Ava kept looking toward the trees. She knew. After they finished the cake, Brenda packed up her things, gave Lily a hug, and left. Ava and Lily were alone. Ava stood up. She looked right at the shadow where I was standing. She said something to Lily, pointing to the swings. Lily ran off, laughing. And Ava started to walk. She didn't run. She just walked. Across the open field of grass, her eyes locked on me. The late afternoon sun was gold on her hair. She was wearing a simple green dress, the color of her eyes. I stepped out of the shadow. My heart was hammering against my new scar. I was terrified. She was the only thing in the world that had ever terrified me. She stopped, 10 feet away. She just looked at me. She took in the suit. She took in my face, which was thinner. Her eyes traced the line of my jaw, my mouth. And then she saw it, the faint limp I still had. Her face crumpled, just for a second. I didn't know what to say. "Hello, Ava," was pathetic. "I missed you," was an understatement that would have choked me. So I said nothing. She closed the distance. She walked right up to me, her eyes searching mine. She was looking for the man she knew, the monster, the protector, the man who fixed her door. She raised a trembling hand and touched my face, her fingers tracing the scar on my shoulder, which was visible above the collar of my shirt. And then she wrapped her arms around my neck and buried her face in my chest, and she just held on. I was frozen. For one long, agonizing second, and then my arms came up, and I held her. I wrapped them around her so tightly I was afraid I would break her. I buried my face in her hair. It smelled like soap and sunlight. I breathed her in. I had been suffocating for 6 weeks, and I could finally breathe. We just stood there. We didn't speak. There were no words. There was just the solid, warm, real weight of her in my arms. After a long time, I loosened my grip. She leaned back, her arms still around my neck. Her eyes were wet, but she wasn't crying. "You're hurt," she whispered, her hand moving to my side. "I'm fine." "You're a terrible liar," she said, a small, watery smile. We sat on a bench, the same bench. Lily was on the swings, lost in her own world, a safe distance away. "I have nightmares," she said by staring at her hands in her lap. "About the farmhouse, about Marcus, about the gun. I wake up, and my heart is pounding. I think I'll never be clean of it." I had nothing to say. I just looked at her. "But then," she said, turning to me, "I have other dreams. I dream about pancakes and the smell of bacon. I dream about you, covered in drywall dust, drilling a lock. I dream about dancing in the kitchen." She put her hand on my knee. "You're in all my dreams. Lay on the bad ones and the good ones." I looked down at her hand. "Ava, I am sorry for all of it, for the danger, for what I brought to you, for what it cost." She met my gaze. Her eyes were clear. It cost me everything I was, and it gave me everything I am. She leaned in and kissed me. It wasn't the tentative kiss on the steps. It wasn't the desperate, frantic kiss on the mattress. It was a kiss of absolute, quiet certainty. It was a kiss that said, "You're home." "I forgive you," she whispered against my mouth. "Now, come home. Lily has missed you." We walked back to the car. Lily saw us. She stopped swinging. "Leon," she whispered, her eyes wide. And then she ran. She ran across the grass, her paper crown flying off, and she launched herself at my legs. "Oh, dragon!" she yelled, wrapping her small arms around my knee. "You came back! You came back!" I gritted my teeth against the pain in my side and knelt. I pulled her into a hug, my heart, which I had thought was a dead, hard stone, breaking wide open. "I came back," I murmured. She pulled back and hugged my neck, her small, sticky hands on my face. "I missed you, Daddy Leon." My eyes met Ava's over the top of her daughter's head. She was smiling. Tears were rolling down her face. We went back to her apartment, the 3 of us. Later that night, Lily was asleep. She had refused to go to bed until I had read her 2 books and tucked her in. My jacket spread on her floor like a dragon's pelt. The apartment was quiet. Ava was in the living room, by the window, looking out at the city. She was wearing my suit jacket, the sleeves rolled up. I came and stood behind her. I didn't touch her, not yet. "She called you that," I said, my voice rough. "She's been calling you that for weeks," Ava replied, not turning. She sees you, how you are with her, how you are with me." She turned around. Inside the circle of my arms, she looked up at me. "She's not wrong, Leon." I looked down at her, this woman, this survivor, this heart. I leaned in and kissed her, and this was the kiss I had been waiting for my entire life. It was slow. It was reverent. It was the kiss of a man who had been starving and was finally being fed. My hands, which had only known how to break and to take, were gentle. I cupped her face, my thumbs tracing her cheekbones. She sighed into my mouth, her hands coming up to rest on my chest. There was no rush. There was no desperation. There was just connection. I kissed her mouth, her jaw, her throat, the pulse that beat there, strong and steady. She tilted her head back, giving me access, her trust absolute. I lifted her, my side protesting, but I didn't care. I carried her to her room, and I laid her on the bed. The lights of the city were a soft glow behind the curtains. I didn't demand. I worshipped. I rediscovered her, My touch was a question, and her body was the answer. It was a slow, soft unfolding. Her hands, which had once flinched from a touch, were now bold. They traced my scars. The old one and the new one, they were not afraid. When we came together, it was a quiet, profound joining. It was not a collision. It was a click. It was the sound of a key, turning in a lock that had been rusted shut for a life. It was a promise, made in the body, of a life. It was soft and emotional, and it was everything. Afterward, we lay tangled in the sheets. Her head was on my chest, her hand splayed over my heart. The city was silent. "I want this," I whispered into the dark, my voice thick. "I want you. I want both of you." She tilted her head up. I couldn't see her face, but I could feel her smile. "Then stay," she said. "Just stay." I woke to the smell of coffee. I was barefoot, in her kitchen. The sun was streaming in. I was wearing a pair of dark trousers from my suit and nothing else. My side ached, but it was a good ache. I was cooking. I was making pancakes. I heard a giggle. I turned. Ava was standing in the kitchen doorway. She was wearing my white button-down shirt from the suit. It hung down to her knees. Her hair was a wild, beautiful mess. She was holding a cup of coffee, and she was smiling. "Mommy, look!" Lily giggled from the living room. "Leon's making chocolate!" Ava walked over to me. She didn't say anything. She just wrapped her arms around my waist, resting her cheek against my bare back. Her hand splayed across my new scar. "Good morning," she murmured. I turned off the stove. I turned in her arms and pulled her against me. "Good morning," I said. I kissed her. A long, slow, lazy morning kiss that tasted of coffee and promises. Lily ran in, her bear tucked under her arm. "Pancakes!" she squealed. I looked at Ava. Her green eyes were bright. Her face was soft with sleep and love. In the background, her daughter was laughing. The wrong number had become the right life. Thank you so much for listening to our story. We hope it touched your heart. We would love to know where you are listening from. So please drop a comment and say hello. Your thoughts mean the world to us. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe to Mafia Romance Stories for more tales of love and danger. Let us know what you thought of Leon and Ava's journey.